Hi darling, this is Sewing Julie and welcome back to my channel. Today we have a new sewing tutorial and we will be making a men's t-shirt. Now this is a tutorial that will work with any kind of classic round neckline men's t-shirt pattern. So if you have a pattern already available, that's great, you can use it for the sewing tutorial. If you don't have a pattern available at the moment, don't worry, just click the link down below to my blog where I share the pattern drawing that I used today, and you can recreate the pattern to fit the measurements of the model you're making the t-shirt for. To sew men's t-shirt, you will need a 4-thread overlock and a machine that can handle a twin needle. But if you don't have these items, don't worry. Throughout the tutorial, I will explain how you can change these products into what you have available at hand. Before moving further into the video, I want to give a huge shout out to today's video sponsors, Sew Easy and Hemline, presented by Sew Group International. Sew Easy specializes in patchwork and quilting products, as well as they have a big variety of sewing and functional storage solutions. Sew Easy range consists of over 250 amazing products that can be used by both beginners and professionals. Today, more than 1 million Sew Easy rulers are being used all over the world. Sew Easy places a huge emphasis on quality control and utilizes a lot of innovative cutting-edge techniques such as laser cutting to ensure precise and accurate measurements. Hemline was founded in 1987 and it quickly became very popular because it represents products in a huge variety of different sewing categories and offer top quality with affordable pricing. Hemline is enriching the lives of sewers and crafters all over the world, and today they are offering more than 1,000 different sewing and craft essentials. The Hemline brand has spread it all over the world and you can find them literally anywhere. Also, by buying either Sew Easy or Hemline products, you are supporting Sew Aid program, which is helping women in developing countries to learn how to sew and develop this craft and make a living out of it. Sew Aid program is primarily a teaching aid program, so if you want to know more about this program and how you can help them out, I will link it down below in the description box. What I personally like about Sew Easy and Hemline products is that they offer high quality products with affordable pricing and a huge range of different items, so no matter what task I have on hand, I will always know that I will find the right product in either Sew Easy or Hemline assortment. I also love that they offer not only the essentials but also such very handy tools like this bobbin case or this travel sewing kit, which is great to have in the handbag, and whenever I need a quick repair, I know I can count on having this cute Hemline sewing kit to help me out. So throughout the video, I will use different Sew Easy and Hemline products and I will link them all down in the description box if you want to check them out. Now let's start our tutorial. So once you have your pattern pieces cut out from the fabric, it's time to start assembling our t-shirt, and to do that I have my trusty 4-thread overlock ready for work, and this will be the machine that we will be creating our main seams today. Why 4-thread overlock? Because 4-thread overlock creates that super elastic and very durable seam, so this will be very ideal for sewing t-shirt seams. Now if you don't have a overlock on hand, that's not a problem. You can still use your standard domestic sewing machine if it has a zigzag stitch. So how to do a mock overlock with zigzag stitch? So you create a very narrow and wide zigzag stitch and just simply sew along the edge where you would normally sew with the overlock. Of course, if you choose to do this method, I highly advise you to first test the fabric, because not all fabrics behave well with such stitch, so just simply try out your machine and see how it goes. So now, starting to assemble our t-shirt, here is the front of my t-shirt. The right side is facing me and here is the top shoulder line. So I will grab my back piece, put the shoulders right sides together like this, and I will just simply run a overlock stitch here to create a shoulder seam. Now, one thing to mention when you're working with stretch fabrics, actually with every fabric that you work with, but stretch fabrics in particular, when you're sewing with an overlock or either standard sewing machine, make sure you're not overstretching the fabric, because then you will create a wrinkly and not straight seam. So you want to just hold your fabric and navigate it so it goes in the direction you want it, but you're not pulling it and you are letting the machine do its job. So here is how the seam looks like, and I also finished the other shoulder as well. So now the second thing that you want to do is to go to your ironing board and iron this seam first like this, and then you want to open it like this and just push this beautiful seam to the back side and then iron this whole seam. So now let me just go quickly and iron this shoulder seam. So once you finish ironing your shoulder seam, it will look like this, flat and all pushed to the back side of your garment, and on the right side of the fabric it will look like this. Now you can set this piece aside and we will start working on our neckline for our next step. And today I will be cutting my neckline from rib knit fabric, so I will just show you quickly how the rib knit fabric looks like. It's highly stretchable and has great recovery, so it's ideal for necklines and other places where you need that extra flexibility and yet you want the fabric to recover to its original place. So how much rib knit to cut out? To determine that, you will need your neckline pieces. So here's my back piece and here is my front piece. Here and here are the fold lines, meaning that this and this is the shoulder lines. So I want to put the shoulder lines together like this, and then I will measure the top here. Then I will double the measure. Here at the top part is exactly how much rib knit you want to cut. Now, how to measure this spot? You can of course measure it with the standard measuring tape, or you can use this flexible measuring tape which holds its shape and holds its position, and it's very practical to measuring curves. So here is how the flexible measuring tape works. Instead of just falling all over the place, it holds its shape and allows you to measure those curves beautifully. So here is half of my neckline is 25 centimeters, meaning double the number will be 50 centimeters, and add some seam allowance, and this is how much you need to cut from the rib knit. So this seam flexible measuring tape really comes in handy when it comes to measuring the challenging curves. So this is something that I do recommend you to have in your sewing toolkit box. So here is how my neckband looks like, cut out from the rib fabric. And now the following steps that you need to do is to take your rib knit, fold it like this and place the ends together. And I want you to make a very short seam here. You can either make this with overlock or your standard sewing machine, it doesn't matter, because this particular seam will not be stretched out a lot. So once you've done this, I want you to iron this seam and then fold the entire neckband in two and iron it like this, fold it lengthwise along the way. Once you've done this, I want you to meet me again at the overlock. So here is how my neckband looks like now. It is connected here with the seam and then folded in half and ironed all around. You might also notice that I have switched my overlock threads from dark ones to the white ones to match my neckband. So if you're also using a contrasting neckband, you want to now switch to the threads that are as close to matching in color to your neckband as possible. So before starting to install our neckband to this t-shirt, one more thing you have to do. So here we have our connecting seam, and it will go to the middle of the back of our neckline. Now I want you to take it like this and fold it like this and find the middle right here. So here at the middle, I will make a very small notch. So this notch will be the indication of where the front of my neckline will go. Now, once you've done this notch, I want you to take it and then the connecting seam, put it like this together and fold in half again here. And now this middle piece will be the shoulder, and you will want to match this notch with one of your shoulders. And for the second shoulder, you again will match the middle of the neckband with the middle of back neckline, fold it in half, and here will be the second shoulder notch. Once you have this ready, you can take your t-shirt and start installing the neckband. So I want you to take your t-shirt the right side out and take the back piece of your t-shirt, and here is the middle of the neckline on the back of my t-shirt. So right here. So I will take my neckband, and the connecting seam we said will go to the middle of the back, so it's exactly where I will place it, and I will pin it in place. The second notch we said will go to our shoulder line, so holding it like this, I will pin the second notch to the shoulder line. Now the third is the middle, and it will go in the middle of our front t-shirt like this, and we will pin it again. And now the fourth and the last notch will go to our second shoulder. So your neckband is pinned in 4 places, and now it's time to start sewing. So for me, I noticed that I sew best necklines when I'm removing this free arm of my overlock, because it allows me to go closer to the neckline. We will start sewing from the back piece. Here was the middle back. We can start just a little bit above like that, and you want to put your neckband at the same line as your t-shirt and just sew around. So at the back, the curve is not very severe, so we will not be needing to do any kind of pulling, so we will just let our fabric slide. Once you're starting to sew, don't forget to remove the pin, because you cannot sew with overlock through pins. That's a big no-no. Then I will continue to sew, and I'm making sure that the edge of my neckband is matching the edge of the neckline here. So once you came from the neckline to the first shoulder line, here is where all the fun begins. So here you can see that there is so much more fabric of the t-shirt than there is the rib knit. So you want to pull the rib knit just a little bit so that it fits beautifully here in the neckline like this. So I don't know if you can see, but I'm holding my rib knit and my neckline at the pin place here in the middle, and I'm just pulling that rib knit and making sure that it fits beautifully into the neckline. Don't be afraid to pull your rib knit in this place, because this is where it's allowed to do that, so that it beautifully fits. And then continue to sew till the middle of the front. Again, while you're stretching the rib knit right here, don't forget to match the edge of the rib knit with the edge of the neckline. Once you came to the front middle of the shirt, remove the pin again and then repeat the same pulling process. So here is the pin at the shoulder line, and I'm just pulling that rib knit so that it fits into my neckline perfectly. I am continuing to match my rib knit edge with the edge of my neckline, and while the rib knit is stretched out, I'm continuing to sew. For the finish, simply continue to sew till you meet the beginning of your seam. and just drive away with the overlock. So here is how our neck band looks like installed. So now there are two options how you can do the following step. So one way is to either do a top stitching seam right here, 1 millimeter from the edge right here, with a simple straight stitch in the matching color of this fabric, or either the contrasting thread, however you want to. Or if you don't want to do this step and you feel a little bit intimidated by it, you can just simply go ahead to the ironing board and just iron this entire neckline. It's best to iron it with your shirt spread it like this and create that beautiful curve. So it's up to you to either do a top stitching and then do the ironing, or do the ironing straight away. So I will do the top stitching and do the ironing, and I will meet you in a second. So once you ironed your neckline, it will look like this, beautiful and round. Let me just take a look. Beautiful. Now the next step is to add those sleeves, and yes, we will be adding the sleeves in while our sides are still open. So this is called adding sleeve to the open sides, and it's one of my favorite techniques to add to the t-shirts. So I want you to grab your sleeve and grab lots of pins. So take one sleeve, which is also open and not yet closed, and take one armhole. So just make sure that you're using the right sleeve to the right armhole. And I want you to find the top of the sleeve right here. I made a notch, and that notch should go straight to the shoulder line like this. And pin. Get ready to use quite a lot of pins in this step. So I pinned at the shoulder line the top of my sleeve right here. Now the second pin that I will pin is at the bottom of the armhole. I will pin the bottom of my sleeve, so like this. And at the other side, I will also pin the bottom of the armhole with the end of my sleeve. Like this. And now the goal is to add a few more pins so that the entire curve of the sleeve fits neatly to the armhole. So I went ahead and I pinned my entire sleeve right here. So the entire curve of the sleeve fits beautifully in the armhole without creating any unnecessary gathers. So just double check and make sure that there are no gathers neither on this side nor this side. So now we will go ahead and just overlock all around this sleeve, and to do so, again, it's easier to just remove the free arm if your machine has it. Also notice that I switched to the black thread again because I want to match them with the bodice of my t-shirt again. We will start overlocking here all around, and we used quite a lot of pins. So when you're using quite a lot of pins, the very handy tool to have is this cute flower pincushion by Hemline. So the cool thing about this particular pincushion is that it can be stuck to any kind of surface like this, and it will stay where you need it the most. So I will just go ahead, I will start overlocking and removing pins, and while I am removing my pins, I have this cute little gadget where I can put them. Again, I just want to make sure that you never sew through your pins. It's a big no-no. So remove the pin before the overlock knife hits it. That is very important, so please do not forget this. So our sleeve is set in, there are no gathers, we're just looking through, and from the right side of the garment it looks beautiful and very clean. So next up, I want you to add the other sleeve exactly the same way, and then iron both sleeves by pushing this seam towards the bodice. So make sure that the sleeve is neatly and nicely pressed, and after that, let's meet again at our overlock. Once these sleeves are installed and ironed, they will look like this from the right side of the garment. Let's see how there are no gathers. I personally find that it's easier to add sleeves to the t-shirt when the sides are still open, but of course it's your own preference. I personally just love that this particular method gives a speedy and nice looking result. So now one of the few last seams left to go, and it's to connect those sides. So to do that, turn your garment inside out and just grab the bottom of the armhole like this, and make sure that your seams are matching beautifully here in the middle, and just put one pin here to hold both layers. Now take one more pin and pin at the end of the sleeve, so pin those sleeves together. And now you want to find the edge, make sure that they are matching, and pin again. We will be using a lot of pins again for this step, so make sure that your little gadget is filled with lots of pins. Once these 3 points are pinned, you have to pin all around here. So basically you have to pin all along the edge. So here is how one side looks fully pinned. We pinned the sleeve together, we pinned the armhole bottom together, and then we pinned all the way to the bottom the entire side. Now let's start and overlock all around here. Again, one reminder, remove that pin before the overlock knife hits it. And here is how one side looks like closed. Now I want you to do the same on the other side and the other sleeve. So now both of our sides are closed and our t-shirt is almost at the finish line. The very last step left to do is to finish those sleeves, bottoms, and of course do the hemming. So both of these tasks, the finishing of the sleeves and the hemming, will be done the same way. So first I want you to go around and overlock both the edges of both sleeves and the hemline. To do that, very simple, simply run the overlock stitch all around. In this step, it's very easy to overstretch this fabric because you're sewing only one layer, nothing is pinned, nothing to hold on to. So just simply let the fabric breathe, and in no case you don't want to pull it, and you want to avoid overstretching as much as possible. So the bottom of my shirt is overlocked, and I will go ahead and do the same with the sleeve bottoms for both sleeves. And now the next step after you've done with the hemline and the sleeve bottoms will be for you to go to the ironing board and to iron this overlocked seam nice and flat. So now it might look a bit wrinkly, but once you give it a good press and give it a good steam, it will fall beautifully into the place. So once it's folding into the place, I want you to take that hemline of yours and just fold it like this. Depending on how much seam allowance you left at the bottom, I left about 3 centimeters, so this is exactly how much I will be folding. And while I'm folding, I will be ironing this part so that it stays beautifully. So once you finish ironing that and the sleeve bottoms, I want you to meet at our straight stitch sewing machine. So now that you iron the bottom of the sleeve and the hemline, the very last seam left to do is with our sewing machine, and we will be using the twin needle function. So before doing this stitch, make sure that your sewing machine can sew with the twin needle, because not all domestic sewing machines have them. Majority of them do, but just to make sure, read the manual of your sewing machine and make sure that your machine can sew with the twin needle. So today, for sewing with twin needle, we will be using twin stretch machine needles from LiQWYD. LiQWYD has a wide assortment of different sewing needles, so no matter what kind of fabric or what kind of task you have on hand, LiQWYD will have you covered. Today we are sewing t-shirts, so this is why I picked a twin stretch needle. So just make sure that if you're sewing with a stretch fabric, you are choosing the stretch needle as well. And on the back we can see the indications that classic twin needles are available in ballpoint, universal, jeans, embroidery, metallic, and stretch needles. So make sure that you're picking the right needle for your task, and the classic will have you covered with the right needle. So now I have my LiQWYD twin needle set into the machine. The machine is threaded, and I will start hemming my sleeves and the hemline. I love to remove the free arm because for me it is easier to access the hemline, but for you, of course, it is optional. You do how you want to. So I will start by doing the twin needle stitch end of my sleeve. So I have a sleeve right here. It is iron. The hemline of the sleeve is iron, so I know where to stitch, and I will just go ahead and stitch all around that bottom of the sleeve. Now, one thing to mention when you're sewing with twin needle instead of regular needle, you want to stitch much slower than with the standard single needle, because you want to avoid any kind of disruption or breakage. So just simply start slow and continue. So once you went around the sleeve, the seam will look like this. It's very stretchable and looks beautiful. Now you have to finish the second sleeve entirely the same way, and then move to the hemline and do exactly the same stitch. Then move to the ironing board, give your t-shirt a very good press, and you will be done. So this is it, and this is how you make a men's t-shirt. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comment section below. If you sew a t-shirt using this tutorial, I would love to see your creation, so please send me the Instagram DM message with a photo of your creation. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!